Hey there, literature maniacs. Welcome to part 2 of the Bob Daisley Autobiography, For Fact's Sake. A link to part 1 is in the description to catch yourself up on the rock journey. And you know what to do. Subscribe, comment, share, Patreon, PayPal, and I'll see you in the afterword. Way back when the Earth was cooling in 1980, the Blizzard of Oz coalesced. It was not a solo Ozzy project. It was the name of the band that brought together veteran ex-Uriah Heep drummer Lee Kerslake, wunderkind guitarist Randy Rhoads, ex-Black Sabbath vocalist Ozzy Osbourne, and ex-Rainbow bassist Bob Daisley. Like its play on words namesake, the Wizard of Oz, this band would whirlwind Bob out of the mildly successful London music scene into an international fantasy land where he would meet a wizard, a cowardly lion, and a wicked witch. Bob, Lee, and Randy not only crafted the band's first album in 1980, they were also the driving force behind the second album, Diary of a Madman, in 1981. But you never know it. You see, Sharon saw to it that Bob's and Lee's tracks were re-recorded by other hotshots on reissues of the Madman album, so as to remove their credits from that album and not have to pay them royalties. By the third album, 1983's Bark at the Moon, all pretense is gone. No more Blizzard of Oz band name. Now Jet Records was openly marketing the third album, as if they were all Ozzy solo albums. And though Bob and guitarist Jake E. Lee penned all the songs, the only credited songwriter is, you guessed it, Oswald Q. Osbourne. The guy who didn't know how to play any instrument and couldn't write lyrics somehow wrote an entire album by himself. See, there's a fine line between stupid. Randy Rhoads' tragic death in a plane crash in March 1982 only meant one thing to Sharon: exploiting Randy's legacy. It makes my flesh crawl how the Ozzy Sharon machine abused their dead bandmate for venal profiteering, not to keep his memory alive because he was a gifted guitarist. And you blind and deaf Ozzy fans who are also fans of Randy, you have to realize this, don't you? That they tout Randy's legacy to shift merchandise, not because they respect his creative use of Phrygian modes. I especially love-hate that famous picture of Ozzy holding Randy up by one leg, which was used for the cover of Ozzy's Randy Rhoads tribute album, released in 1987, then reissued in 1995, then again reissued as a remaster in 2002. Didn't someone just say something about exploiting the dead guy and his estate not seeing one f***ing red cent of the profits? Just a nasty rumor, I guess. It's an awe-inspiring, career-making shot. But it was one hell of a lucky picture for both the photographer and for Ozzy. Because Ozzy is a useless, let me say it again, useless frontman. Don't take my word for it. Watch any undoctored footage of Ozzy live on stage. His frontmanship consists of clapping almost in time to the music, plucking the mic off its stand and clipping it back on again, and wandering flat-footed in both directions across stage, like he doesn't know what he's doing out in this parking lot with his sister's clothes on, intermittently yelling, "I love you people!" Rinse, recycle, wander, clap. Randy's death meant he would be spared the misery of his two bandmates. It gets to the point where every time Sharon Osbourne calls Bob, which is about once every 10 pages, We feel sorry for the guy when he accepts the gig, whether he's performing live, recording, or just providing lyrics. Because we just know that somehow Sharon is going to screw him. 1 page later, Sharon screws him. 10 pages later, she calls him again to help Ozzy out of a jam. And again, before he has time to lube up, due to the hotshots, Lee, Bob, Randy, Tommy, Rudy, Jake, Don, the other Randy, Phil, Brad, Zach, John, Geezer, Mike, the music was always great. But Ozzy has been the weakest link in all his lineups, Sabbath included. Like Jim Morrison, he's a stoned, drunk loser. In Bob's own words, when he came out of Sabbath, he was almost considered to be without credibility because he got fired for being non-productive, drunk, and lazy. Ozzy has been fashioned into an economic cog, so I understand how and why he exists in the music industry. For this reason, his legions of fans will never realize their demon prince / godfather of metal is a media-generated hoax. At least Morrison was a poet who had a flair for expanding our hungry teenage consciousness. Ozzy is an empty shell. In Sabbath, Geezer Butler wrote the lyrics. In Blizzard, Bob Daisley wrote and crafted the music with the other players. Generations later, the Wicked Witch has successfully rewritten history to make it seem like the Cowardly Lion was the Wizard of Oz, the sole creative force all the way from the first album to the present. And let's face it, Ozzy couldn't have even rewritten history if it weren't for Sharon doing it for him. These are the facts of the book's title that Bob would have us know. Now, the more sensitive fans out there might rampage. How can you be so insensitive, Dunmore? Ozzy's near his deathbed, and you're being so uncharitable. Well, I have 2 words for all those outraged fans. Ozzy knew. Sharon may have been the one to instigate all the foul play and firing musicians and overdubbing tracks and denying royalties, but Ozzy knew. When he heard the reissues of the old albums with new bass tracks, did Ozzy go to bat for Bob to restore Bob's original tracks? No. When Bob wrote the songs and some other bassist turned up for the video, did Ozzy hold a hunger strike until his mate Bob was on camera? No. Your past indecencies don't just disappear when you're knocking on heaven's door. So, feelings for the old and respect for achieving and retaining worldwide fame, but also facts. Throughout the book, Babyface Bob's sweet, mild-mannered personality and work ethic is obvious. He doesn't seem to have any legal or personal animosity toward any other artist or company that he deals with, except Sharon Osbourne, who has been trying to gaslight the rock world that Bob Daisley never existed. Obviously not seeing the irony in trying to convince everyone a man never existed who existed alongside everyone. Can you empathize with Bob's fury now? For fact's sake! Bob's website does contain a comprehensive, truthful discography and much more info. I've included a link in the description, bobdaisley.com. I've also included links to many of the live performances you see here, for which I can't include the audio because YouTube. One day, during the latter part of 2008, I was going through some storage boxes and came across all of my old London correspondence from the 70s. Apart from the nostalgia and emotion that the letters evoked, they also inspired me to do something which, for years, I'd promised many people, including myself, that I'd do. Write a book. You will laugh. You will be taken aback. You will recognize many names and learn of new ones. You will nod your head at times, at other times call bullshit. And yes, you will weep when a death in the rock and roll family shakes us to our blues roots. Bob has penned this tome in an era when the old gods are vanishing. He was as much a part of their stories as their stories were a part of our lives. With tears in our eyes, we read of the last curtain calls of Bon Scott, John Bonham, Phil Lynott, Cozy Powell, Boz Burrell, Ronnie James Dio, Gary Moore, Randy Castillo, and the mighty John Lord. During the making of this video, another death in the musical family. Lee Kerslake passed away after a long battle with cancer. Nicknamed the Bear by Uriah Heep for his powerful build, Lee spent his last years tragically debilitated, a self-proclaimed raspberry ripple. Yet he was content, as his final request from Sharon was granted, receiving the platinum discs for Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. His performance royalties would have been nice as well, but that's our Sharon. Rest in rock, Lee. When that great rock and roll encyclopedia is eventually written, Bob can rest assured his babyface mug will be all over it. And when he joins those other gods, he can now also rest assured that he's left something for us earthly mugs to cherish, a Randy Rhoads polka dot flying V. Oh, and this book. On ya, Bob, my old son. Hey, thanks for being movie maniacs. You're always welcome to subscribe, like, share, you know. And there are links below to my PayPal and Venmo if you'd like to be more than just a viewing maniac. And if you become a Patreon member, and you will, let me know what movies, music, and rants you'd like to see on Dunmore's Movie Mania. The Patreon is a work in progress. Hey, shoot me an email or leave a comment on how it can best serve you movie maniacs. All your help goes towards me creating quality content to satiate your movie mania.